Welcome to the B2B Community Builder Show, Season 5. I am your host and Chief Executive Connector, Pablo Gonzalez. And today we have got the queen of LinkedIn pages, the Jedi, the Yoda of LinkedIn pages, right? The one person that you say LinkedIn, the category queen of LinkedIn pages. You say LinkedIn pages and strategy, and everybody says Michelle Raymond. Michelle, from Australia, welcome to the show.
Well, on that introduction, I am actually going to get you to come and be like my hype guy before every show that I go on. So thanks so much for that introduction. You and I have been so excited behind the scenes to have this conversation, because at the pre-show, I was like, yes, I agree. So it's so cool that we get to share that with other people today.
I do a lot of these, and it's been a unique experience the way that you and I connected on the onboarding call, throughout the show. I love your energy. I can't wait to get into this. And I want to welcome Gary. I want to welcome Jillian. I want to welcome Sue. This is an interactive show. Let's get to the subject at hand, Michelle. That we were pretty excited talking about this. And this is how I'm going to start my show from henceforth, is when I say community-led growth, which is the theme of this show, right? Like how we build businesses through a community motion. What do you think of, and how does it relate to LinkedIn pages?
Oh, look, I feel like you've read my mind again. You and I are just on the same wavelength. So the first thing that popped into my mind was I've been part of a Leah Turner's Ukraine masterclass, which raised a lot of about £40,000, about 50,000 US for the people of Ukraine, all in about 10 days. And the ripple effects are huge. Now, that to me was the power of the LinkedIn community, just at full force. Like I've never seen anything like it. I was excited to be a part of it. But if we take a step back, how did I end up a part of it? You know, on stage with Andy Foote and Ariel Lee and Richard Van der Blom, John Asperian and Leah. How did I end up there? Well, it's what you raised in the intro. It's because 12 months ago, I started talking about company pages when nobody else was. So I built up my niche around a topic that was so uncool last year. I can't even tell you how uncool company pages were at this time last year. To the point when it got to April, I was talking to one of my, my LinkedIn bestie, because everyone needs one. And I said to her, "Are you sure about this niche thing? Are you really, really sure?" And she's like, "Michelle, just keep going." And so I kept going. And thank God I listened to her advice, because, fast forward, when I saw Leah do a post, it was Saturday night, like, 9 o'clock my time. And she said, I just reached out and I said, "Look, if you want someone to chat about company pages, I'll volunteer my services." And she's like, "Yes, absolutely." It was a no-brainer for her. And so that's the power of niche. That's the power of building a community. And that's why my name gets mentioned while I'm asleep sometimes.
The podcast that I had directly before, the one that we released today, right? We release our show a week after I think we actually released a podcast 2 weeks after we shoot. And it was this guy, Lee Fredrickson, who has done this like he's like a college professor, and he's got a research agency, and he released this like research report of like why companies are winning and all this stuff. And his number one piece of advice was niching down, right? And he explained it in a way that I had never thought of, and it's perfectly germane to this situation. And he said that when you niche based on the speed of information in the world right now, and the fact that we continually are like cycling through a problem du jour and topic du jour that we want to solve, niching down allows you to, the moment that subject becomes the thing, bam, you hit this like huge cycle, which feels like it's like what's happened for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to just kind of explain before I did, as I said, I was petrified of niching down because I thought I would miss out on opportunities. It feels like the more narrow you go, the less opportunities will come your way, when actually the reverse is true, and so it takes a little bit of bravery, a little bit of courage, a little bit of, okay, these people who are experts, like you just mentioned, keep talking about it. I'm going to go with it. But that point in time is scary. And I'm sure that there's probably listening in that can relate to that, because, for me, it was not a cool topic. If I was talking about personal branding, for instance, at the start of last year, it was the hottest topic on LinkedIn. You know, company pages, not so much. So, you know, sometimes niches can be scary, but now I'm the only person that people think of when it comes to it. So it pays off in the long run. So that short-term pain, just keep pushing is my only advice I could give to anyone listening in.
That's awesome. That's advice that I've been too scared to take myself, and I'm really starting to like eat that dog food, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm inspired by you in doing so, and I'm also inspired by this idea that we live in a world where as soon as you get a little bit of an audience, you can be part of the telethon for good, right? Like what you just described is like something that used to be only reserved for the celebrity networks, bringing in like Whoopi Goldberg and Michael Jackson, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
You guys, y'all just did the same exact thing. Like you just decided to host a fundraiser. You activated your audiences for good, and you really got to feel the power of community for something, and you got to feel useful in a time where we all feel so like impotent in the face of evil. It's amazing.
Yeah, so Leah Turner comes up with this idea because she's watching the news and she sees these mums with children stuck at borders, and it really resonated. And so, you know, with the power of her community, she activated, which then drew me into that community because, you know, we're not particularly close. We are now. Like what's happened in the last 2 weeks has really changed things, and I love that immensely. But it was one of those things, I felt helpless on the other side of the world. And now like we've got newspapers and different things picking up the story, calling it LinkedIn Live Aid. Like that is mind blowing that you can be a part of something that is now being referenced to something that was such a major contribution to society. However, what is it? It's got to be 30 years ago. Like someone can help me out in the comments with the timing. But when someone views it in the same way, that's when I think I got present to the power of my own voice to help other people. And often you think that you don't really have that much of a platform, but I've built this thing, you know, over 8 years, or over the last 2 years, especially for my business. And you can just see the power. The power is beyond the business. You know, the power is beyond, I've got a network of people supporting me in my business. I've got you know, friendships. I've got this ability to actually make change in the world. And that's, you know, part of why I do good business with good people is my motto. And, you know, LinkedIn's just such a powerful, you know, platform to be able to enable that. So I'm blessed, as they would say, hashtag blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Like our boy Bruno likes to say. I love it. I think it's so cool. You know, it really brings me full circle because my understanding of community came from getting super involved with nonprofits. And, you know, I did it kind of like selfishly at first, right? Like I had this green building consulting company, and I knew that Habitat for Humanity wanted to start a young professionals group. So I was like, man, this might be good business development. And at the end of the day, it completely changed my life. This idea of once we create these, kind of what you just described, when you put something together with somebody else that serves a higher purpose, it bonds you in a way that is really hard to replicate without going through that kind of journey together. And doing that over and over and over again for different social causes made me like the guy that knew somebody in every single room in Miami after like 3 or 4 years of doing that stuff. And that's when it really all hit me, this value of community for business development. So I love the description of it, but let's go into the LinkedIn business page. So for you, it was a strategic move of niche, a brilliant strategic move of niching down and really being courageous and doing that. When you started diving into the LinkedIn business page, and this was, you said like about a year and a half ago?
The December 2020 is when I kind of really put my mind into it. I got my first client around August 2020, but it was, I was new in my business. It was a new idea and I wasn't so sure. And especially when you listen to everybody else telling you that company pages are rubbish, but I was listening to the business owners that I was talking to, and they were saying to me, can't you help us? Can't you do it? We haven't got the resources. And so I kept getting that feedback from business owners. And so I had to kind of switch off what was happening on the platform and listen to what was the actual need. So yeah, it wasn't that long ago in the big scheme of the world.
Love it. I love it. So in the big scheme of the world, when you first started diving in, what did you find? Like when you first went into it, what was your initial thesis on it, and what did you first either prove or disprove?
Yeah, so the first thing that I looked at, and the reason that I got into it, so my background is in sales. So I've worked in sales for over 20 years. And so I'd started using LinkedIn for social selling when I started a new job in a new industry and wanted to make some connections. And that was about 8 years ago. Fast forward to when I've got my business, and I went out to my old industry and said, look, I'm thinking about doing LinkedIn training. And the look on their face, Pablo, like I'll never forget it. It was almost like that virtual like desperation, like, and they just would go, can't you just do it for us? Like, you're good at it. Can't you just do it for us? And I didn't even think that was a job. I'm not going to lie. I had no idea that people paid other people to do their social media for them. And you can laugh at me all you like in the comments, but that's the truth of where I was at. And so what happened was I looked into it and I was like, well, how can I, act on their behalf? And at the time, company pages are a no-brainer because you can assign a third party as a page admin. And it's totally within LinkedIn's guidelines that allows you to do that. So it ticked those boxes. I've always sold on behalf of other companies. For me, it was a no-brainer. Pulling out the uniqueness, their key selling points, knowing what they offer, their value was easy for me. When I looked at the flip side, how do you do it as a person? I looked at it and I was like, actually, it's against the user agreement. I know that there are tons of people that do it, but I felt weird pretending I was going to be somebody else. Like doing it on behalf of a company seemed like normal and natural. Doing it and pretending I'm someone else, I was like, it just doesn't sit with me, and so that's kind of how it all snowballed. And then the more I looked into it, the more I was like, there's all these other advantages that people get fixated on. They don't get as much reach or engagement as what personal profiles do, right? So we get so fixated at looking at what the one issue is that they missed out on the opportunity of all the other things that work. And so, I said in the masterclass last week, would you ask a fish to fly? No. Right? So don't ask a company page to work the same as a profile. They're not designed to, they never will, they are different. So why not look at it with a different frame of mind and say, okay, they're different. What are the advantages over here? And start playing with that to support what you're doing with your personal branding. And that's been the journey of the last 12 months, finding ways to find that synergy. 1 + 1 is 3, as I say.
Love it. I love it. So if I get to replay that back, you're at first, you realize that there is an inherent advantage in that by using the company page, you get to play by the rules in a space that other people weren't playing. Like it's kind of
The gray area, they would say.
It's a gray area, right?
And that's okay.
And then when you came in, you confronted an obstacle, which is you don't get the same, it's not incentivized the same way that everybody was used to. But within that, you realized I need to live within the context that is presented, right? Like I can't just lament this idea that I can't use it the same way. I got to figure out how to use it the way it's intended to be used.
Absolutely. You've just nailed it. Actually, I'll probably use that going forward. You've articulated it so well. Instead of trying to force that square peg into the round hole, it's time to just look at it and go, okay, how can I use this thing? And because there are so many amazing tools. And the good part is LinkedIn Pages team, they're cashed up. And so there's so many new features got rolled out last year. They had been ignored before that. I'm anyone that, tried company pages 2 years ago, it's time to come back and have another look, because I wholeheartedly agree the pages of old, I wouldn't have got involved with them either, but I know what's coming. I work directly with the LinkedIn Pages team. I know some of the journey that they're planning out and they're listening. This is the difference. We have a product team at LinkedIn who's now listening, going, what do small businesses need? There's an assumption that company pages are all about for big business, so why would I bother? And I just think the opportunity is actually more for smaller businesses, because if you can leverage your employees, and that's the game changer, if you've got a small team and leverage their brands and their connections, and you all work together, yeah, it's a win-win.
Let's get into it then, Michelle. Give us the secrets, Miss. I was behind the scenes with the LinkedIn business page team. What?
I know I can't, I'd love to tell you, but they'll kill me. So yeah, but there is, why? Let's go back a step. Why are they pumping so much money into it?
Yeah.
Well, you need a company page to run ads. They are having record spends of paid advertising strategies on the platform in the last 12, 18 months because of COVID. Now, I don't do paid strategies. Everything I do is organic. There are people out there that are much more talented in that, really specific niche, paid strategies. But for me personally, I started to have a look at it and go, okay, how do we look at this? And, this is the, like you said, the things that I've worked out from managing pages across industries. There is so many things that can work for people because, hey, we're all a bunch of online stalkers these days. We want to buy something. What do we do? Dear Google, can you please tell me the best this in that area? Can you tell me about this product? Where are the reviews? Can you tell me what this person said about, restaurants? So, what do they find when they look up your company? Now, company pages on LinkedIn, because it's the, world's #1 trusted social media platform. Typically, if someone Googles your business name, it's going to show up on the first page, probably the top 3 results. Now, if you don't have $3,000 a month to go and spend on SEO, you need to do your company page. Like, give it some love. It's free. It's going to take you about 15 minutes to set up, maybe half an hour if you, do a really good job on the about section. It's a no-brainer win, and so this is where I start at the very basics. There's an SEO win. Next step, get your staff, or if it's just you as a solopreneur, because these things work for solopreneurs as well. Go and update your LinkedIn profile, work experience, get rid of those gray buildings, start to build up those little signposts for your business that direct people back to you. So your business is the no-brainer option.
Awesome. All right. So I'm recapping here because the content we make on the back end is going to be like Michelle's tips for LinkedIn, right? So number 1 is don't sleep on the fact that think about incentives. LinkedIn makes money through advertising and business page. So the more you start dedicating yourself to your business page, you are putting yourself in the path of LinkedIn success, and you are now on the same team, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're going to give you the tools to set you up for success as well. So we've just seen, for instance, LinkedIn newsletters has just been rolled out for company pages. So they want your business page to be successful. They are going to start giving you more tools. LinkedIn Lives, another one of my favorite tools for company pages. Here's why it's different, because you get LinkedIn Live if you've got creator mode switched on as an individual. Here's the kicker that people don't think about. I run all of my LinkedIn Lives through my company page. Now, I only have maybe 1,600 followers on my company page. I have about 8,000 sitting on my personal. And so the logical question is, Michelle, why wouldn't you do it over here? You've got, 8,000 here. You've got 1,500 here. Why would you kill your audience? Easy, because if I go live on my company page, I can invite all of my personal connections. So I can invite up to 1,000 per week. The most important part for me is it sits on the video tab on the company page, which you don't have on your personal profile. So if I go live on my personal profile, it drops down the feed, never to be seen again. I don't get any value from it. Do it on your company page. Ta-da, it sits there forever for anyone when they want to come and binge watch on my channel. They can come and have a look, and they'll see it there, and they'll see the history, and they'll see how, extensively I use the platform. And then that's going to allow me to also refer people back to it. If they have a question about LinkedIn and I've already answered it in one of my lives, hey, how about you come back and check this out? Now, that for me has, benefits that go well into the future that I think people don't factor that in. And, that's where I'm out to kind of change this conversation.
Love it. I love it. So, all right. So recapping kind of like the last two is the idea that searchability is big, and it kind of is the umbrella for these 2 points. One is the fact that your company page is going to rank on Google. So now you're SEOing yourself to a certain extent. It's another kind of like fountain for that. And then on top of that, content is pretty impermanent inside your personal page. Whereas in your business page, when you go live in there, it sits there in this like catalog of like binge watchable things. Like there's this whole there's this whole catalog there that people can go through. So Sue's got to get out of here in a second, but she's got a question. Let's get into that to
Go
give her a
for
little
it.
bit of value. She asks, rationale for a showcase page since it only appears to a person going to the company page? Question mark. I don't understand the advantage of it. You can't link it in a post. I created one for my short course, then found out all this. So I deleted the showcase page and made separate course company page. I honestly don't even know what a showcase page is. Can you kind of just give me a little bit of context here?
Yeah, so let's break it down. So we have a number of different pages within pages. So you've got a company page, which is the umbrella. And then falling underneath that, you have things like product pages, which up until recently were only for digital products. So software as a service, those types of products. So Canva is a great example. So they sit underneath as an umbrella under the company page. You can't invite connections, but it's a really great way if they have to display about your product. So you can say who your target audience is, you can have featured items. So it looks great. One of my favorite layouts as far as pages goes, but you don't build an audience, you don't build content. It's like a go-to destination. So then you have what's called a showcase page. Now, a showcase page, Sue, is mainly for those multinational companies that are then going to have things like, geographies that are separate to main, if you've got a global company that's, got 50 destinations, you might have a showcase page for each destination because what the local geography might have some, uniqueness to the content. It can also help for people like Adobe. If we go to like a big multinational, they have multiple different products which fall within, underneath that. And so they may have showcase pages for different brands. And so this is how we start to split these things up. So if you've got multiple brands, for the most part, for most small businesses, it is not worth the time and the effort to set up all of that. It's more designed for the bigger end of town. You're better off managing it through your content on your company page and building up your audience on that, especially if you're only new to pages. Just focus on content, focus on building your followers, and then we can work to some of these more complicated things in the future. But for most businesses, it's not suitable. It would just be double the effort, not double the reward.
Got it. So it makes sense when you have multiple brands, not so much multiple products, or multiple geographies where you have different messaging, not so much multiple products.
Yeah, so the product pages, which as I said, I love because you
Okay.
can highlight reviews, you can highlight featured, you can do demos. So Sue, what I would say is just hold off because they're being rolled out to other industries. So they've moved from software into some other fields, which I don't know them all off the top of my head, but we will see those more extensively get rolled out as the testing keeps going, as we just make sure that, LinkedIn like to do slow rollouts. I've just been part of some testing. Why do they do that? Because sometimes you find glitches, and if you don't want to roll it out to 60 million pages, can you imagine if every single person had that glitch? It would just be carnage. And so that's why they roll out slowly. That's why they take their time. So just hang in there because product pages are designed for exactly what Sue said.
Got it. And so Don is asking follow-up in there. Do alternative languages, is that product or like a showcase thing?
You can do that within the setup of the page. So you can show that there's actual other languages in there as well. So you can have both.
Okay, cool. And Sue has final clarification here before she gets out of here. Now I see the big picture, but hopefully LinkedIn will understand that people taking my course then want to show that course completion on their profiles. Yeah, shareability of like, here's my badge, look at my gold sticker. Do you see that anywhere in the roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do that now with anyone that does training with me, is that I send them a certificate and they can update their personal profiles and link it back to my company page. So I would say that if you're limited in resources, just don't make it as complicated because it will just be so much easier for you to just direct them all back to the one page so that you don't have all of these different places that you're trying to build communities around. Because building a community takes time. For Pablo, just so you know, the average company page probably grows with someone being active and really trying around 60 to 80, well, let's say 40 to 80 followers per month. So that's a small number for most small businesses. For the bigger end of town where you've got 1,000 employees, it's a different conversation. But for most most people using your invite credits, so you get 100 invite credits every month. For most people, when you do that, you put some content out, attract some people organically, 40 to 80. So we're talking a 6 to 12 month time frame to get my magic 500 to 1,000 is the magic community number that we're looking for.
Awesome. So 60 a month, 500 to 1,000 is the magic number where you start getting community. Love it. We got a bunch of folks rolling in. I want to give Roanne some credit right now. Roanne, our community manager who's on the call. We had problems going live on Facebook. She did it. Now that we did, we got people rolling in.
Yay.
we got our friend Rachel Simon checking in.
Oh,
So
yay.
welcome in, Rachel. No, we have not talked karaoke yet, but that's coming. We got my buddy Jesse Rittenhouse from Miami, who's a green building expert, checking in. We got my friend Luke Lewis, who's here from Jacksonville. He's a commercial realtor, and he's doing some really, really interesting things at the Arlington Mall. And he's got a question. So Luke is asking, should I pay a third party to create me a rockstar LinkedIn business profile, or is it doable as a novice? And I would add to that, what are some tips to do it as a novice if you're building out the company page?
Yeah. So the cool part is, for the most part, it's DIY, right? So you can go in, if you follow the steps, you will be able to complete it yourself. As I said, about 15 minutes. So from that side of things, it's pretty easy to set up. And as I said, free. So yep, you can get started today for not that much of an investment. Now, here's the kicker. The main area that I want people to focus on, there's two things. Number one, I want the page 100% complete. Now, why do I say that? Here's what happens. People go, yeah, I start following all the questions LinkedIn asked me. I'll come back to that one. Now, LinkedIn have told us if you complete it 100%, you get 30% more weekly views. There's your incentive. So make sure you fill out every field. If you set your page up some time back and it was a bit of a, I just want to update my profile with the nice logos, go back and check, okay? Because it's really important, especially when we do want to get as many eyes in, on the content as possible. The second thing that I would say is we're going to focus on that about section. That's where I think if you're unable to kind of articulate what your business does and who it helps and how you help, then pay someone like me to come and help you write that about section. It's worthwhile the investment. So if you are, already clear on that, you've got your ideal client in mind, you know your systems, you know how to articulate it, then go for it. You can do it yourself. But if you're not so clear, and often, the hardest thing for anyone to sell is themselves, because you quite often just in amongst it, right? And you can't see out. And so when someone else talks to you, this is what happens with my clients all the time. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. They're like, we sell stuff. Like, no, you don't just sell stuff.
Yeah, preach. Listen, I have the hardest, I'm such a good hype man for other people, and I have the hardest time talking about my stuff, right? Because it's like you're so, I think what you said is right. Like you need like the distance to create the perspective to be able to see the whole picture, to be able to talk about it, right? So
look, I'm guilty as charged. I'm no different to anybody else out there, because when you're a subject matter expert, here's what happens. You think everybody knows what you know. You don't stop and think, it took me 15 years to learn all of the sales techniques. It took me 8 years to learn the LinkedIn stuff, 2 years of, company pages. I just think, I take it for granted. And then what happens is sometimes people reach out to me and they're like, what's a company page? And I was like, whoa, there's like, and that's real, because when people come onto the platform, the company page, how to set it up is buried. It's not anywhere obvious. And I've said that to LinkedIn. I was like, you need to get this front and center, which is how people end up with multiple profiles created, one with a logo and one with their face. So yeah, you can do it yourself, Luke, is the long and short answer for you.
love it. And to synthesize, it's 15 minutes of just like filling out every part of it. And really the investment that you recommend is if you can find a really good copywriter, right? That knows how to write words real pretty.
It's like everything, same as on the profile, the whole holy triangle. So make sure your banner rocks. That's going to be the thing. It's your billboard. Again, it's the biggest piece of real estate that you've got on your company page. It grabs people's attention, and it creates their first impression. So put some money into that, or some time. You headline, no different to on your profile. Like, you want to grab people. We are not reading things for the most part. We are scanning. We're just kind of getting the general gist just by scanning over what's there. So, capture attention. So banner, headline section or tagline, and then the about section. They're the ones you want to nail. They're the ones so that when I come across, like, and I shared this the other day and I heard it somewhere else, is, when I watch Netflix, I don't watch something that's just got one season. I'm going in there when there's 3 or 4 seasons because everyone else already liked it before me, and someone paid them to make 1, 2, 3. So I go in there and I'm like, okay, I'm deep diving on this thing. I'm not going in there maybe just to follow a post all the time, but when I want stuff, I want to know that that's where I've got to go. So
I like that. I like that. All right. So Dawn, who is a valuable community member here, Dawn is checking in. I think she's in Costa Rica, or Panama. I think she's in Panama. She's like a nomad, right? Like she's a writer. She does all these like really cool causes that she's very passionate about. She's got a couple issues. She has problems tagging people on LinkedIn. I think the company page is a little harder. Maybe you can clarify that. And then because she moves around locations, she says that LinkedIn doesn't really like that. Is that accurate? And what kind of advice can you give there?
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, they have things, to stop other people, as we talked about at the top of the show, where, there are lots of people out there pretending to be someone else and creating content. So it goes, there's your IP address, there's that IP address, something fishy is going on here. So they have systems that, are intended to keep the platform safe, so that it stops bots, so that it stops automation, so it stops all of the creeps where you go and buy followers and connections, and that is rife on the platform. If you think someone's performance is too good to be true when they first come on, chances are it probably is. So that could be turning on 2-factor authentication on your profile could actually help with that, because it will send you a message to your mobile or something like along those lines, so that you can then confirm that it's you. So that might be one workaround. Tagging. Okay, so most of the time, tagging can be a problem if you've got internet that's not so great. So I'm just throwing things out here to see what sticks. If you're somewhere where internet's not great, you have to type slowly. And I sound so silly when I tell people this, but it's like a thing. So if you type at and then give it some time, one letter at a time to catch up, it can often be the workaround. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but it's actually something that works. And it's, something that us LinkedIn trainers, we tell people, and it's like, yeah, it sounds so, like made up. But yeah, it works. So try those. Like, that's probably where I would start.
There you go. All right. I would encourage our community that's here, ask us some questions. Gary, I'd love to. And I'm gonna get selfish.
Love it.
Podcasts. Should I have my own company page for my podcast, or should it just be within the stream of the company that is hosting it, or my own thing? Is there an advantage?
Yeah, look, it depends how much time you've got and how much content you've got. So if you are not putting a lot of stuff out on your company page, it's a great way to build your community. So you've already got an established podcast community. Why not bring them across to your company page? Easy win from that side of things. It's one less thing you have to manage. If you are on Facebook, LinkedIn, all the other places, podcasts, if you're trying to manage all of that, it becomes how do I get more bang for my buck, without just spending all day, every day updating platforms. Now, so from that perspective, I would just create it as a piece of content. One of the cool things which I love, let's go back to the video tab. I mentioned that that's one of my favorite places. Mm-hmm. So with my podcast that I do, I take out my favorite bit of whoever my speaker is, turn that into an audiogram, and that sits over, that's a video essentially, and that sits on the video tab. So I use an audiogram to promote my podcast, so it sits over on that video tab. So again, you might come and see my LinkedIn Live that's sitting on there, but you go, oh, what's this thing? And so it might capture your attention, and then you become a podcast, subscriber potentially. So, how do you make these little signposts pop up, almost subliminally, so that people can go, oh, I didn't know Michelle did a podcast. Like, I only think she does, LinkedIn Lives. I only think she did this. Oh, let me just click, that whole, I'll just click around and see what I can find.
I like that. Okay, cool. When you have multiple people in your organization, or myself even, should I share something to my LinkedIn page and then share it to my profile from my LinkedIn page? Should I post 2 separate things? Is that an errant thought? Yeah. All right, cool. Tell me more.
Yeah. So here's the problem. Sounds great in theory. LinkedIn even make it really easy. Go press that share button. Like it's just right there. And LinkedIn will actually ask you, there's a pop-up prompt that says, post to your profile, right? And you're like, yeah, this is so easy. Makes sense. I want people in my personal network to see my company page post. Here's the problem. Press it, you'll get zero like reach, zero engagement, and it's basically a waste of time. So do I want you to, it doesn't mean you can't post the same content on your profile and on your company page. Absolutely not. It just means don't press that share button. The other thing that I would say is sometimes put some time between the two. And the reason that I say that, here's what I did. I got clever one day. I thought, I'm going to record a video for my company page and I'm going to record a different video for my personal profile. And I'm going to post them on the same day. Here's the problem. My background was the same. My shirt was the same. My hair was the same. What do you think when someone's scrolling through that platform at 1,000,000 miles an hour, do they stop and go, oh, a company page, Michelle? No, they just went, I've already seen that. And I missed an opportunity. Now, it was a learning lesson. And these are the kinds of things that I've picked up over time, is that maybe I should have changed shirts. Maybe I should have just done it the next day. So think about things like that. If it looks the same, we're so taught to just keep on scrolling by things we don't like or things we've seen. It's not offensive, but and what we want is people to stop scrolling and press that see more button. That is your ultimate goal on LinkedIn. And then drive them to leave a comment.
Thumb stopping content, right? Like you got to create a thumb stopping experience. The time on post is the metric that tricks the algorithm that your stuff is good, right? That's why you want people to see more. And that's just kind of standard personal and or business profile. Michelle, let's have a segment where is called, why is Pablo wrong? Right. So I do this, right? I do the Zoom call because, we both do live shows, right? I preach the idea that in the Zoom environment, in this like chat, it becomes a little bit more personal, right? Like Don and Gary and Jesse and Rachel looking at that chat right now feel a little bit closer to each other than they do if it is in LinkedIn Live, right? And I kind of like very systematically, I still have yet to do LinkedIn Live. I'm doing Facebook Live, right? Because I'm kind of like thinking that, you're the center of attention. After that, it's our friends here in the chat. Then after that, it's Facebook. Then after that, it's kind of like where it goes. Tell me if I am thinking about that wrong, or if I should go just live into LinkedIn because I know it has such great engagement and why I should do it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to think about it a different way. So you and I have the same, kind of intention that we want to reach as many people, get our content as far and wide as possible to obviously attract and build community.
Mhm.
So I think you would actually love LinkedIn Live, and I don't think you lose anything by doing it through LinkedIn Live instead of like Zoom, like we've got today. So here's the thing. I go live from my LinkedIn on my company page. So I use StreamYard. So you need a third party to get involved, right? So StreamYard is the one that I use. Restream is another one which people enjoy. There's not much difference between all of them, but you need a third party is the main point. When I go live, I also send it over to Twitter and I send it to my YouTube channel at the same time. And then obviously it sits on my company page on that video tab, which I keep raving on about, because that's where my community lives on LinkedIn. That's where I'm building it. I don't want to send them off to Facebook or off platform. I want them to stay as much as possible, because while you're watching my live, you're going to go over here and maybe have a look at a post and see that I offer training or something to that effect. Now, there's a couple of advantages. I can use the invite function and invite people from my community directly within LinkedIn. Now, why do I want to do that? Because you can do that the same as what we've done on this Zoom, right? You're going to say, I've already built up my email list, or however your method is. The difference being, if I send you an invite and you click attend, here's what happens. And this is just, this is one of my little secrets. So, which is getting out there. If I keep telling people when I go on these shows, when a visitor goes to your profile, Pablo, if you said, yes, you're coming to the Good for Business show, what happens is they're going to see on your profile, Pablo is attending Good for Business show. And then they might go, what's this Good for Business show he's going to? If he's going, maybe I want to go. And so it's like a little signpost that directs people back to my business again. Now, it also keeps me top of mind. You get the invite, it means that I'm thinking of you, and I don't just spam people. I spend a lot of time choosing who I want to invite. Sometimes I might just go for gold and, it's a more general kind of thing. But the last thing I want to do is send, if it's a topic about building employee advocacy, which is the next show coming up, if I know someone doesn't have any employees and I'm inviting them, it's just spam, so I be structured around that. So for me personally, it's all because that's where my main community lives. I love that the comments when I'm doing lives actually sit on the screen. So you don't have to have a second screen or anything like that. I can manage it and I can bring them up easily so that everyone can see it. So when the recording comes back later, all the questions are on the screen and people can see them. So if they're watching on YouTube, they don't miss out on the chat. So yeah, lots of different ways. I won't get too excited because I love LinkedIn Lives and I'm a bit biased. So, maybe there's food for thought. Maybe there's a best of both worlds.
Yeah, you also gave me some great advice, which is if you are showing up at the same time, on the same week, you start building up some momentum of people start tuning in. You want to tell us a little bit about how you've approached the idea of getting more and more momentum of people showing up to LinkedIn Lives?
Yeah, so having a regular time slot roughly really does help because then people get to know to look out for you. LinkedIn also helps promote the event. So it'll tell you that this is coming up in a week. It'll tell you that it'll help promote in the feed that it's about to start, so it will actually help you promote the event. If you're someone that likes to do it on Zoom because you like, people to register because you're collecting, email addresses to be able to contact them later, you can do a registered live event where you can collect that detail as well and export it as a CSV file. Now, in my experience, I don't do registered events as often, mainly because mine's a weekly show. And so, maybe I'll change that in the future. It used to be, if it was registered, it cut off your audience and you didn't get the reach. But that's kind of changed over recent times. So it's important to keep an eye on pages. They're changing at a rate of knots that even makes my head spin most of the time. So, and go back, how can I also leverage my community? LinkedIn company page newsletters are another way that you could promote the live that's coming up or the one that's been, and, use them in, how do you use the tools in combination is what I'm always looking for.
Got it. Makes sense. You mentioned something that I've heard in the past and we've started doing. It's the idea that if you're doing a LinkedIn event to a LinkedIn Live, or I don't know if it's only applicable to lives or not, right? Because we do this too. If you set up a LinkedIn event through your company page versus your personal page, everybody that RSVPs yes to your company page, you can download their email, right?
Yeah, if you do it a registered event. So you can't just for a non-registered event, because the reason why is there's a little box that you have to check as an attendee, and it makes it really easy to register because it picks up your profile info, right? So the process is really smooth. But there's a box that says, can you contact them afterwards or not? And that's the whole, privacy laws, various around the world, but it ticks that box. So you just have to keep a check that once you get all of those contact details afterwards, that you actually go through and say, who said I could follow them up or not? So you can't just go and add them automatically to your list because there's laws around it, but also what does that create around your brand? If I said, don't contact me and you do, that can be an issue. So just be mindful of it. We've all got that goal of, trying to build lists or, whatever, but just be mindful what's the impression that it creates out there. So
I wanna double click into that real quick. You hit on something that Don just called out, right? There's those newsletters again, Pablo. We've been talking about newsletters a lot, and the idea that they seem to be everywhere and everybody's like telling you to subscribe to their newsletter. What are your thoughts on newsletters right now? And are they a worthwhile endeavor? What's the advantage? And what's the advantage on like newsletter in company page versus non-company page?
yeah, so we got bombarded. So everyone that had creator mode, they flicked the switch and all of a sudden we got newsletters. And then 5 million of them all went out at once because we wanted to be first. That's what happened out in LinkedIn land. And so people got bombarded. There was just so much going on. Now, if we look at them from pages, so they've only just slowly rolled out. So I've been testing them since around January. So, and the first group just got them, a week or so ago. So it's not with everybody as yet. To understand why LinkedIn company pages team want you to use it, you need to go back and have a read of what's called the Edelman report. And it's a report that was commissioned with LinkedIn that investigated what are B2B buyers looking for. And so picture this, we've got something that we want to buy. We're doing our research. We jump onto Google, type in our question. What do you get? Those SEO blogs, which are same, but different on every single website, right? They're written for SEO, which means that they are just, they're different. They're not original. They are just carbon copies everywhere. Does that help me when I'm trying to, as a buyer, find out what the real thing's going on? As a company, LinkedIn are driving you to create original thought leadership, which the research shows that that's what people are looking for. And newsletters are a tool for that. You build up subscribers. So you could do an article before, but it didn't really get that greater reach. You get better reach for articles on pages than profiles, but newsletters allow you to have subscribers. They allow you, I love them. I've been a big fan of the newsletter because I get to, really enrich them with things like videos and images and links. And so from that perspective, they're not dull and boring. And sometimes like that, 1,300 characters roughly that most posts are, sometimes I want to expand and show people, actually, I know a lot more about a lot more, that I don't want to just keep compressing. Most newsletters that I've followed and subscribed, they're jam-packed with value. Like there are some amazing newsletters out there. We're up against it with the, oh my God, not another newsletter, and that's the balance that we pay. So if you're going to do one, make it so valuable that people are happy to get it. And so, I personally love them. And again, how can you repurpose and get to a different audience some of the stuff that you may have already created, which of course you've got a ton of.
Yeah. So we're about to go really hard at the Rated Medium, right? Like we're about to launch this newsletter that's relationship business strategists, right? And I have all these like old speaking points of like how to network at conferences and how to, like how to make friends with people business wise. And we are now shooting the back end of that content of like, how do you do that now in the digital medium, right? Like how do we apply the same concepts, but in digital mediums? And we're going to launch this thing. So I'm thinking deeply about it. And the last time that I was publishing articles, it wasn't really for me, it was for clients, but we would shoot a conversation. Then we would, with multiple people, a video and make that, basically make the article 3 different kind of like takes on a subject based on what people say, have the video embedded in it, have the kind of like write up on top of it, the write up, of each one with a video. And then we would use snippets from the video to promote the article itself. Is that kind of like best practices when you're talking about repurposing? Is there anything I'm missing there?
No, absolutely. Like I'm always looking for ways, and I've changed the way I go about my content this year, and it's been very deliberate. So whilst I get more views immediately on my personal profile, it just disappears all the time. We've got a small featured section and mainly you can see those 3 and occasionally people would go and look for more, but ultimately things disappear. It's like a newspaper, yesterday's news, there it goes. So on a company page, I'm looking for ways like, how can I make things stick around? How can I repurpose them? How can I get one to help the other? And exactly what you've said there, if you're putting time and effort into something and having all those conversations, how do I stretch it? How do I get the most out of it without having to just keep forking out more and more money to people because I want to, get that content to go further? So for me personally, the newsletters, we're still testing, but, they will be SEO, they will be indexed by Google, right? So the newsletters will go out into the land of Google and you will be picked up that way as well. Now that's something that we're just finalizing the testing, but just for future references, know that that's what LinkedIn wants you to do. LinkedIn wants you to be found on your company page. So they're pushing that out there. So, there's lots of different ways. you know, and especially having video, like it's about not being boring. So breaking up long text, you know, making it visually appealing is important. And for me personally, you know, it's always, what does it look like on a mobile phone? You know, keep in mind, you know, we're up around 80% of people are using LinkedIn on mobiles. Keep that in mind. You know, what makes it easy to read while we're doing that old, you know, thumb scrolling.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's get into Gary's question. This is about engagement, and I think we're gonna kind of have a big picture question on engagement and not being a pain in the ass, right? Jesse, yes, this recording will be available somewhere to rewatch. We're repurposing this stuff to YouTube. We're actually right now Roanne's working on taking like not just publishing the whole conversation, which we will do, but we're also going to create the piece that's like advice number 1, advice number 2, advice number 3, all on YouTube, Jesse. So you'll be able to see that, but I'll send it to you when it's ready. All right. So Gary asked the question. I post business related and personal type posts as well. On some, I get 200, 300, or 500 views. B, get few or no comments when, even though I ask a question. How do I get engagement? And C, I learned to ask 20 people to add comment when it comes out and ramps up views. How do I ask ahead without wearing people out?
Yeah, and I think it's to look at them differently. So, and again, it's hard when a business is starting out. So imagine this: someone comes to me and says, "Michelle, can you do it for me? They're going to pay me," and then I say, "You're probably going to see nothing for around minimum 6 months." You know, and they're like, "So you want me to pay you, and I'm going to see nothing?" And my only words that I say is, "Trust me." You know, like famous last words. So it's a difficult sell. And I was just talking to the Pages team this week. I go, do you understand what it's like for a small business owner when I tell them you have to invest 6 months where you see nothing, but just keep going? It's just crazy. So tagging people within the post where it makes sense and where you know they'll engage is one way around it. And again, you don't want to wear through, you know, some of that, you know, goodwill that you've built up potentially in other areas. So tagging can be one thing. Just letting it go and not being so drawn into it needs to have engagement. So I'm going to give you some tips on actually what content will work better on a company page. Maybe that's a different way around it. And it's all about mixing things up. LinkedIn tells us, you know, essentially when you do the research, they go into detail about making sure we mix things up. So don't keep the content boring. We've got all kinds of different formats, whether it's long, short, video, newsletters, all those, you know, image, just text. Mix it through all of them because you've got people of all kinds. Up the value and maybe look at how can I make it shareable. So one thing that's working really well for me on company page content right now is the carousel slider post. So it's a mini masterclass in about 8 slides. How do I get, so yesterday I shared the top 8 mistakes company page content, right? So it was 1 slide, mini masterclass per slide, bright colors, caught attention, and it really drives people that they get value in a short amount of time, and it answers the questions. If you want engagement, the easiest thing that you can do is pull out your smartphone and take a photo of you doing anything that you're doing, right? It does not matter if you're having a coffee in a coffee shop, if it's the setup of your screen, like you're doing a LinkedIn Live, like we're doing, or, you know, a Zoom, like we're doing now. You can just take a photo of the setup. I'm getting ready for this live. Let us see behind the curtain. What can I find out from you that I can't find out from your website and I can't find out from anyone else? So if you're you know, for instance, I come from a manufacturing background. People love manufacturing videos, like, you know, and it's, you know, back to that beginning part, the uniqueness around your business is what people really get drawn into. So if you're out there supporting the community and you are doing good out in the world, take a photo of it in a way that it has to align with what you do every other day. So if you're just doing it because you want some likes, people will see through that, they will smell it, and they will run another way. If you do it consistently over time and you show people you care and you have a purpose, that's really going to draw people into your community. So that's an important part, often overlooked. Businesses do so much for their local communities that we don't share about because we think, oh, you know, it's just, you know, just blah, blah. But it creates the perception of who you are as a company, which is more than just products and services. So these are the kinds of things. But yeah, behind the scenes, anything that has an employee's face or your face in it, will go through the roof. The more that you make it look like a personal post, so i.e. drop your branding, leave it at the door. Sorry to all the marketing people out there. Use subtle branding. So it might be the color of the text. The more that if you just put like, you know, blah, 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 it's all about the company, people just think it's an ad and scroll on by. And we're back at that same problem. How do we stop them? So if your post looks like an ad, you need to pull the image and go back and have another go and, you know, repost it. So had a, you know, someone reach out to me this week, super excited, just got nominated for an award, which is, you know, really big in their industry. It's the pinnacle of, you know, the company's, you know, journey so far. And nobody commented. And she was like so deflated, as you would be, because you're like, oh my God, I made this.
Yeah.
And her words all conveyed that. But the image was just the link from the awards. And it was brown and it was bleh. And everyone just went, and she missed out. And she was shattered because she's like, oh, like, I'm, you know, like, hello. And so this is, you know, what you've got to be mindful of. How does it land on the other side? And as long as you're looking at the viewpoint from the other side, you'll get more responses. It's when we make it all about us and try and force, you know, our marketing values down the path, it comes unstuck.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm gonna kind of piggyback on that one too, right? So we first started with the engagement and tagging people and not wearing people out. When I'm doing it, and I guess it all comes down to this idea of we train our team to think, what is the person watching this going to gain by watching this, right?
Absolutely.
And make the copy and make the theme of whatever we're doing about that. And then when we share content, right? Like Michelle, we're going to cut out some stuff and send you some gifts, right? But like, I think, what is Michelle going to gain by sharing this about herself, and what is her audience going to gain, right? Roanne and I have that conversation all the time. So to that extent, when you are writing copy or you're tagging people, think the same thing. Think, what is the person that I'm tagging going to gain from this? If all you're doing is tagging 20 people, like, look at my crap, yeah, you're going to wear them out. If you are writing if I'm putting something in, you know, I'm sharing a piece of this, so let's say this clip right now, I'm probably going to mention Rachel Simon, who is a LinkedIn expert that introduced us. And that can tag her. That gives me some reach. It gives her some love. When I'm talking about you, obviously I'm tagging you because I'm making stuff about you. And then I'm also going to tag Gary because he asked the question, right? So like that gives Gary the attention to like the thing that he asked. He's going to want to hear it again, and doing the same thing, right? I also think of it when I'm like, what have I learned from this thing, right? Today is a perfect example of this, right? Today was would have been my brother's 50th birthday, who passed away.
See that.
Yeah. And like, I didn't post a thing like RIP bro, like I miss you, and asking for directions, asking for attention. It was these are the lessons that I have learned, and you can learn these lessons. So, and hopefully this helps you on your journey. So if you're doing a volunteer event, right? Helping a charity, it's like, hey, at this volunteer event, I met this person and XYZ and this and that happened, and I never knew that this, like, promote the charity. Don't promote yourself. Look at us at a charity event. And if you're going to tag somebody, be like, and these other people did it with me, and it was really cool to blah, 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 blah. Right. So like, there's always a twist that you can make that adds value to the person that you're tagging, or to the thing that you're patting yourself on the back. If I would have been your friend that shared the link of the award, I would have been like, man, for those of you that don't think that you can win an award, you know, this is how you do it. And then put like, I did this, then I did that, and then I applied for it like this. This is how I felt, you know, like giving actionable advice or inspiration about how you achieved it, that someone else can do it, as opposed to like, check out this award, you know, like that's going to fall flat.
Yeah, look, the more you help others to rise, the more that it helps, you know, and like you said, when you're supporting like other, you know, I guess causes that are important to you, again, take you out of it and make it all about them, you know, and the same can happen. So people, you know, we talk about employee advocacy, like how do you get your employees to just support the content? And I get people, they get so angry because employees won't. And I'm like, what's in it for them? Did you actually set them up for success? Did you actually speak to them and say, do they have the knowledge and training to understand how LinkedIn works to be able to do that? Or did you just come to them with an expectation and said, do it because I said? And then what happens is there's no goals, there's no KPIs, there's no structures. So if I've already got existing KPIs and I've got a choice, do I spend my time to achieve them or do something on LinkedIn? What am I going to pick? Every single time I'm going to pick the thing that's going to pay me because I've got my own, goals while I'm going to work. If you align all of those things and get buy-in, and it starts at the top. If you are a CEO and you are listening to this and you expect people to do something you won't do yourself, forget it. Keep your money. You're just going to burn it. I've seen it too many times. If it's not good enough for you, you set the standard and it just filters on down, because what will happen is there's going to be a champion of LinkedIn within your business who got all excited, saw the value, wanted to get the team on board. And then they went to you and you said, yep, that's nice. That's your little project. And then you didn't support them. You didn't support what they were trying to do. And then nobody else started to listen. So it wears out 3 months max. So if you really want to make something happen in your business on LinkedIn, it starts at the top. It just does not matter which business it is. I don't care how, busy people are. You can get your marketing team to write something, but it needs to come out from your account. And to that point, how do you make that happen? If you have more than 10 employees, you actually have the My Company tab on your company page. So you can actually, back to where we're at the beginning, if you have 10 employees, you go onto this, what's called the My Company tab. Think of it like an intranet on LinkedIn for your company. It's private. No one else can see in there. What happens is you can get someone, you might have a good writer, or you might have, a marketing team that wants to put it out, a particular copy. When your employees go in there, they can share it to their personal profiles, but it's different to the share button. So it gets treated like a normal post. And so that's the exciting part, that you don't lose it from pressing share like we spoke about just before, but it is a way that you can take the best out of everyone and leverage off their personal networks, because, the more that everyone works together on both sides. So if you want employees to get involved on a company page, make a post about the employee and how awesome they are. Brenda Mello would, and we overlook it. You've got a platform. I come from sales, as I said. I've got a platform. If the company builds me up as the industry leading expert and I'm the most amazing person and here's all my achievements, and then I go and have a conversation with someone who's a lead, for want of a better term, and they go and see that, like, my credibility skyrockets, the credibility of the company skyrockets, because, they've got me there. Win-win, people. Don't make it just about you. Is there a client that you helped that they're happy for you to share their story or their testimonial? Get that out there, make it about them, and how awesome they are. But anyway, I can start preaching, but I get a bit excited, Pablo. I get excited. That's why you had me here. But, there's just so much opportunity. So when we start to move away from how else can I do it? And, then the opportunities are there.
I mean, you're getting me excited, Michelle, right? Like we're basically having a giant conversation about how people connect, right? Like, and we started in this idea that if you align your incentives with people and you go through something together to achieve something together, it creates a genuine connection. And it's all the same thing, right? Like on the show, we've had this guy, Robin Dreek, who I've become good friends with now. That I don't know if good friends, I've become friends with him, right? That he was the head of behavior analysis for the FBI. He's a spy catcher. Like he was catching, he was recruiting Russian spies in the US to turn against their government with nothing to hold on against him. And he wrote this book called The Code of Trust. That's literally how he did it. And it was all get to know them, approach them with curiosity instead of judgment, figure out what their priorities are, figure out where your priorities align, and then offer them the path to align priorities, nothing else. Yeah. So, people are out there confused, thinking that this is some kind of how do I trick an algorithm, or how can I do this post at a certain time or whatever, when it's really just man, how can you just incentivize people? And to your point, I talk to company owners all the time that are like, man, it's risky to let my employees post on LinkedIn. What if they leave me? I'm like, great. If you become what you just described is this idea that if your employee builds a great personal brand on the back of your awesome company page brand, and then leaves you, you're a kingmaker. And now
Yeah.
everyone that wants to be king wants to come work for you, right? So like, I don't understand how people get it twisted and don't realize that it's really just about sharing the stage. It's about serving the audience, serving the person that you're talking about. Don't say you just landed a client. Say, how great is this client? And look at how great their product is. And I can't believe I get to work for him. Right? Like,
Yeah. And it is a fear. And, part of the reason I got into company pages, because I saw that happen to the companies that I worked for. Now, I can tell you that I got offers throughout my career for significantly more money that I didn't take because I was happy where I was. I had a good management, I had support, I enjoyed my team. Like, there's so many other things around me. If you think that someone's leaving just because of their personal brand on LinkedIn, like, we have other issues, which I'm sure you have other guests who are, leadership coaches that might be better suited. But the advantage, and this is why I kind of got into company pages as well. When I got poached and I left and went to, it happened twice. I picked up my personal brand. I turned up at the next job with my new business card and my new set of customers and went, here I am, and started talking about that company. The one I'd left, because they weren't doing it through their company brand, they relied on, Michelle, you're doing it. You just keep doing it. When I left, it left with me, and they were left with nothing. And I had a really interesting conversation. So if I've got anyone out there that's got an established business, that part of your game plan in the future, it doesn't matter if it's, in 12 months or 5 years or 10 years, if at any point in the future you plan on selling your business, you need a company page that's rocking. That is an asset for your business. That is social proof of your business. That is, seen as, we put it up on a pedestal. Number of followers counts in a lot of things, but having an engaged community, that's what I use my company page for. So if you go there, my numbers are lower, but you don't come to my company page if you don't have an interest in company pages, because that's, pretty much all I talk about. If you go and have a look at my numbers on my personal profile, and again, it's probably 4 times as much as what I've got, but I built my numbers on an industry I don't even work in anymore. I come from beauty and chemicals. So I have an amazing community around that, but that's not who I want to talk to now. So from that perspective, my niche community built around company pages is why you come there. So when I'm talking about that topic, it's people that are already interested. The seed is planted for later on, and so it's, as I think Joe Caruso, he said this week, he's, I don't know if he's in the chat, but, essentially it's like the world's biggest database, that you are able to pull from. And when you start looking at it like that and build your community in the B2B space, why aren't you doing it? It's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. It's great that you mentioned Joe Caruso, because he literally just chimed in the chat saying,
I thought I
pages.
saw it pop up. I was like, was that Joe? Like, because I loved, so Joe and I are super fans of company pages, and we used to host a clubhouse room together with Brenda Meller and just talk about company pages. And so I got to learn a lot from him and bounce ideas, and, he uses them to build, a community around franchises, and he's used it over a long period of time. And then you're able to, use that and leverage off that in other ways to grow businesses. So yeah, he's a superstar.
I saved Joe's post because it's really good. Michelle, I want to respect your time. I want to just kind of like read Joe's post, ask Jesse's question, then I can let you go. Is that okay?
Yeah, I could talk about this all day. So you've probably got things to do. I get excited when I get the opportunity to help people with this, because I want you to see that there's an opportunity there. And as a business owner, if you're looking for a competitive edge, there's only so much you can do with personal branding if everybody else is doing personal branding. So companies, we need to look at it different. So shoot, what's the question?
Love it. Well, first let's give Joe a little bit more love, because Roanne's going to make a little video about the love that you're giving to Joe in here. And Joe wrote a great,
I love it.
in the previews that he said, yes, Michelle, if you have commercial objectives on the LinkedIn platform, you must have a LinkedIn page. With the LinkedIn page, you can have unlimited followers while you and your team members have a maximum of 30K first connections. And when your key employees leave, they take their first connections with them, just like what you just said. LinkedIn pages have great features now. They are releasing new ones like page newsletters for all, and product pages are out for software and tech businesses, soon to be for everybody. If you want to utilize paid LinkedIn marketing and targeting, you need a LinkedIn page to do that. As more and more people chase organic reach, your reach will continue to diminish despite your best efforts at guessing and gaming that algorithm. We call LinkedIn a social platform, but it is best to think of it as a database that you can use to market one-to-one with people building professional and commercial relationships, right? So just wanted to throw that out there.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Awesome, Joe. Really appreciate you adding that. We'll make a post here of us singing your praises. All right. Now, my boy Jesse Rittenhouse he's kind of been like chatting about this a little bit. It sounds kind of a similar thread of the two things that he said, but he wrote, when writing an interesting post, is it still bad to mention your company solution in the post, or is it better just to share valuable knowledge and hope that they will look to see what company you are from?
No, I think it's important to connect the dots, and there's a lot of people, out there in LinkedIn land that would say to the contrary. But here's what I think happens. People get brainwashed, I think is the word I'm going to use, that we should only add value. We should only add value. We should only add value. At some point, we want people to buy from us, and unless you're here as a career seeker, maybe that's a different conversation. But for B2B, ultimately, we're looking for a sale somewhere along the line, if not now, at some point in the future when that person's in the market to buy. So yes, it's important. Now, one of the things that I would say, it is perfectly okay to talk about your product or solution when you have connected the dots and highlighted the problem. So what are the problems that someone has out there in business land? That's why your business exists, because someone wants to pay you to fix their problem. So talk about what it's like for them. What does it feel like in their business? What is the cost to their business from not taking action? What's the transformation that they get from working with your business? And then when I'm all excited about that, yes, that's, and it's obvious. Yes, that's my problem. Oh my God, yes, it feels like that. Oh my God, I wish I had a solution. Oh, here's the obvious answer. So tagging the company and making it easy for people to find you is not a bad problem. And so I like to talk about, there's what we call the 3-2-1 strategy for content. So the 3-2-1 strategy for content goes like this. So it gives you in the right ratios, because if you talk too much about any one thing, people switch off. So it's all about mixing it up, keeping it interesting. You're going to do the 3-2-1 adds up to 6 posts. Now, I would say for a company that's got resources, that's over 2 weeks. If you need to spread the time period out to a month or longer, that's fine. It's more about the ratio that's the important part. So 3 posts in that period of time are going to be about big picture, original thought leadership that you know about your industry. So what can you tell me with your subject matter expertise that I can't find out by just Googling and trying to find answers from everywhere? You're the expert, share that with me. So that's the big picture. So if we talk about that all the time, I don't really get a sense for what kind of business that you are. So that's where we move into the 2 posts. And the 2 posts are all about the feel good. So the feel good are the behind the scenes. That's where the employees' faces. If you go to an enormous amount of effort to put an order together, share the process. Like, let us see behind the curtain, like we said before. So that leaves us to 1 post in that period, and that's about your product or service. It is important to talk about that. We are here to do business. So don't forget to include that, because quite often we get value, but then they go and buy from someone else because you've highlighted that they've got the problem. You've, kind of brought that awareness, but then you didn't say, hey, come and buy it from me. And so that's the one that I often, kind of forget to do. And I'm guilty of it myself, and I should know better, but you get so caught up in, I want to promote this event. I want to talk about this thing that's going on over here. You forget to say, hey, this is how I help, and so 3-2-1 is a really good ratio for people to use.
Love that, Michelle. And by the way, I've been guilty of not talking enough about my product for years, right? But
we all have.
Yeah. At least the people we want to be friends with have been guilty of this, right? I had heard, and I kind of preach it as like 80%, value,
Yeah.
20% you can ask.
Yep.
But what you're saying is perfect. I like the fragmentation further of like 3 of like thought leadership. This is how the world should be, and this is the things. These are interesting things that you could use. 2, like, this is who I am and how much I care, and who my people are and how much we care. 1, this is my product. I love that fragmentation of it. Jesse, something that's helped me out a lot is explaining why things work, right? Like when if you're going to talk about your product and a success about your product, be like, this person achieved this because they did this, this, and this, and this. And we can do that for you. But just in case, if you're going to go do this, this is what you need to do. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I just took this course by Amanda Holmes, who's the author of the newest edition of The Ultimate Sales Machine is going to come out. Chet Holmes, her dad, wrote it. And it's this like educational marketing type stuff, right? Like if you can create a buyer guide of like, man, if you're going to go into this like journey with the solution that I to solve the problem that I know how to solve for, these are the things you should expect. And oh, by the way, I do it like that too, right? So like you're framing the mindset of the buyer based on good advice that you're giving them of, if you want to solve this problem, you better make sure that people are doing this for you, right? So like that's a good natural way of talking about your product in that way. And I've been able to deploy that now a couple of different ways, and it works pretty good.
Yeah, like case studies are really powerful,
Yeah.
because they're proof of what's going. You might have to change the name, there might be some NDAs in place, but ultimately it's the social proof for proof of concept. This is where the client was at. You could probably see yourself in the problems that they were having. Here's what we went through, and here's the outcome, and so step people through that journey, take them on it is a buying journey at the end of the day. So it's not, this is where I say to people, you don't want to just show behind the scenes all the time, because sure, I might like you, but I don't give you credibility as the go-to authority in that space. So when you do too much of entertaining and inspiring and those kind of things and don't build up your credibility, then you miss out on opportunities just as much. So that's why the 3-2-1 gives people a good ratio. I love the 80-20 with value as well. That is absolutely it. It all aligns, but ultimately, I just sum it up. It's not about you, it's about them. And the more that you refine that and stay on track, because it's easy to get distracted. I'm not the only one, right? Am I the only one that's on LinkedIn getting distracted?
No, you at least have one company of one right here.
Yeah, so you can go down a path, and some days I want to write content because I want to write it just because it feels good, and I give so much value all the time. Sometimes it's self-indulgent, but it can become a habit. And so, having a plan and having a content plan can keep you on track, and straight up make sure it's aligned to your business goals. Like, too often we've got people doing stuff on LinkedIn. I'm like, what's your goal? Okay, so let's go back to the beginning, shall we?
Yeah, I love it. Michelle, I wanna get you going. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you feel like I thought we were gonna talk about this today, or anything that you're like super pumped about that you want to share?
Yeah, there's always something. Here's something I prepared earlier.
Let's go. Yeah, you prepared it earlier, huh?
No, but if anyone's got questions, obviously that we've covered a lot, but there's so much more that I can cover. So, and Linaire and I wrote Business Gold. It's the world's first book on company pages, because there was no other resource out there for people to actually figure out, like, how do I get started on this thing? So I would say, don't use your lack of knowledge as an excuse to not get involved in company pages. I want people to change and challenge their mindset. I want them to go back and take another look and work out, how can I use this to get a competitive advantage? And if nothing else, if people take that away today, then I'm a happy camper. So I appreciate that I've had the chance to chat your ear off today.
I love it. I love it, Michelle. And if you are listening to us on the podcast, she was holding up a book called Business Gold that she is a author of. And if you are listening to us on a podcast, what are you waiting for? Join us live for the next show. Geez, this is a lot of fun.
That was my bad.
Yeah. Listen, Michelle, I want to just genuinely thank you for taking all this time. You're here. You are one of the world's foremost experts on LinkedIn pages. You spent an hour 20 here hanging out. Every minute that I have spent with you is injected with this like really positive, buoyant energy. Something about, I don't know, something about your smile and the way that you look and the way that you talk and your Australian accent. I don't know what it is, but the fact that I get to learn from a leader like you, that's that has proven to be a brilliant strategist because of the journey that you've been on, and you took the bet and you did it and it's paid off. I mean, sake, like you did this December 2020 and you're like already in the LinkedIn roadmap community of them asking you what you're doing. You're having great success. I think all the way around, like you're just this like awesome person that I want to promote more and more, and I want to get closer to, and I want to be friends with, and I want to come visit you in Australia. So I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it.
Look, like fangirl right back at you. So it's been a pleasure. I love that you are building, this space for those in the B2B space to get, more out of, and, recognize that community is the power, and like I said, we saw that with this Ukraine fundraiser that just happened. And, the power is there when you actually get an audience that trusts you and takes on board what you say, because you build that over time. The opportunities are endless, and that's what we're talking about today for B2B communities. So it's been my pleasure to actually share what I've learned over the last 12-18 months about company pages, and all I can say is that there's so much more to come. So just get started. I can't make anyone do that part, but if you get started and need some help, I can certainly help you out with that.
Love that. Love that. And speaking of community, we got a couple folks that are still with us. It's on a Monday. You spend like an hour and a half on like a Zoom call hanging out. I want to acknowledge you by name: Don Bates, Gary Hackney, Jesse Rittenhouse, Kristen Kinsella. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Roanne, thank you for moderating in the chat, helping us go live. Next week, we have a friend of mine, Justin Schenk, who has one of the top 5 rated entrepreneurs for podcasters called the Growth Now Movement. He is hosting a live event, and he has just been kicked in the teeth after getting kicked in the teeth on like live events for like a career and then for COVID. But we're going to talk about how you put on a world-class live event in today's day and age, right? Like how you pivot to digital, if it happens, how you do it on right now, how you differentiate yourself, how you get a full, anybody that has a brand, has a company that wants to, put on a live event. And if you're a community builder, I think it behooves you. Tune into the show next week, and I hope to see you all there. Michelle, you're the best. Last words?
I'll be back. I'll be there. So join us. I can't wait to listen, because lives are the second thing. So newsletters and live are what LinkedIn's going to push for company pages in this year and beyond. So you better listen into this, what they've got to share, because those that do will have an edge.
Shabbat.